Robinson, do you agree with Ms. Gaines that there's a difference between women and men?
If the question is about,
I've seen her. I have seen her debating about women and men. She doesn't have an answer for what is a woman. So let's see.
Title IX was a landmark civil rights law. It helped create the incredible breadth of women's sports and girls' sports that we see across the country. I believe in girls' sports. I believe in women's sports. I'm the proud father of two daughters who are both athletes. I think participating in competitive sports is a wonderful thing for a young girl. I think it is a wonderful thing for a woman. And I think, unfortunately, today's Democrat Party has decided that women's sports and girls' sports no longer matters. And they're willing to push radical legislation designed to destroy girls' sports and women's sports. Ms. Gaines, I want to thank you for your courage.
I mean, this is outrageous. Why would they do that?
You are relatively young, but you have demonstrated incredible courage. And because you have dared to speak up, you have been demonized, you have been vilified. I saw when you were attacked by a leftist mob at San Francisco State University for daring to speak up. You had an incredible record as a swimmer at the University of Kentucky. You were a two-time NCAA All-American. You were a five-time SEC champion. You're an SEC record holder and a two-time Olympic trial qualifier. But yet on March 27th, 2022, something changed.
Okay. She's on the opposite side of this? Right.
What happened on March 17th, 2022?
that's when Thomas and I raced in the 200 freestyle and again resulted in a tie.
And so you tied. What was the consequence of tying?
We went behind the awards podium where typically you're handed your trophy, you're marched out, you're named an All-American. And so we go back there and the official looks at both Thomas and myself and says, great job, but you guys tied. And we only have one trophy, therefore we're giving this trophy to Leah. And I question this and I say, why?
If they are ended up in tie, why would they give this to the other one?
And at first, I shortened it in my testimony, but really he stumbled on his words. He didn't know how to answer this. And at first,
Of course.
well, we're just doing this in chronological order. To which
What the hell? In chronological order? What? The parents should have kept their name based on chronological order?
further pressed, and I said, okay, well, what are you being chronological about? Because we tied. And if we're doing this off alphabetical order, G comes before T. So what are you being chronological about? This wasn't a script they had prepared for him. And he actually appreciated his honesty. He did. We have to give the trophy for Leah because Leah has to have it for pictures. They've made that clear. Leah has to have the trophy for pictures.
What about her pictures? She doesn't have pictures to be taken with the trophy?
Pose with this trophy, but you have to give yours back. You have to go home empty-handed. Leah Thomas takes the trophy home. End of story.
Now, let me ask you, as someone who's competed at the elite level, in your experience, is there a difference between women and men?
Of course.
Of course there is. Men are physically strong. Women are strong, but not as strong as all the men.
Sports like swimming where lung capacity matters so much. Even something as silly as throat size, men have on average a 40% larger throat, which sounds like it's nothing. But when you're grasping for air, that 40% larger throat makes a huge difference in athletics.
I mean, I didn't know this. Men have 40% larger throat than women.
Robinson, do you agree with Ms. Gaines that there's a difference between women and men?
If the question is about...
I've seen her. I have seen her debating about women and men. She doesn't have an answer for what is a woman. So let's see.
Trans women.
I'm just asking, is there a difference between women and men?
What I can say is that the NCAA has rules in place. They've had rules in place for the last decade, and when this competition
Okay, I'm going to try
the
again.
rules were clear.
Do you believe there's a difference between women and men? It's a yes/no question. Do you believe there's
Of
a difference?
course.
Oh, I think
It's
there
a
were
yes or no question. You have to answer it either yes or no. But no. She's somewhere in between. She never tries to answer.
talking about this case within.
No, I'm asking a question. Do you believe there's a difference between women and men? Most people could answer this very simply. I'm curious if you're willing to do so.
Oh, absolutely. I'm just putting it into the context of
Is
the
that a yes?
conversation that we're having. I think that there are definitions related to sex.
Is
but I
that a
also
yes?
think
So I'm
that
trying to
we're-
get a yes or no. I'm not trying to get a speech.
Oh,
Is there a difference between women and men?
I think that there are definitions for biological sex.
Okay, so you're
which
not
is
answering
different
that.
than
Let me ask you
gender.
this question then. Why do women's sports exist? If you can't define a difference between women and men, why not abolish women's sports and just tell little girls to swim with little boys and see who wins?
Oh, I'm simply saying that that sex
My
is different
question,
than gender.
why
and I
do-
believe
why
that
do
women's
women's
sports have
sports
a great
exist?
value. I mean, Senator, I'll tell you right
Ms.
now.
Robinson, please answer the question I'm asking you.
Absolutely.
Why do women's sports exist?
I think that there's
Answer. Answer it. Answer it.
so many positive benefits to sports.
But
I mean,
why have a
we talked
separate
about it
category for
today.
women?
No, I'm not going to answer. I'm not going to answer your question.
If there's no difference between women and men, why to have women's sports?
I'm saying that there's a difference between sex and gender, and that the NCAA has rules in place, which they have for the
So,
last
Mr.
decade.
Chairman, I would like to enter into
related
the
to
record an
participation.
article from Duke Law called Comparing Athletic Performances for the Best Elite Women to Boys and Men. And it goes through examining in 2017 the top records for women in the world in various track and field events. So, for example, in the 100 meter, the top record for women in the world was 10.71 seconds. Now, that record for the number one woman in the world in 2017 was in the year 2017 broken by 124 boys under 18. In that same year, the record for the number one competing woman in the 100 meter dash in the world was broken by a total of 2,474 men.
That's a huge number. And for that age, to beat the best among the women, that is incredible. But at the same time, it's about physical strength we're talking about. Men are stronger than women physically.
If the radical Democrat agenda to destroy girls' sports and women's sports succeeds, little girls will not have a chance to compete. So I ask unanimous consent that this article be entered into the record.